Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Carroll from Apprise. I want to welcome you to this webinar in which we'll be presenting information on how to access and use LIHEAP performance measurement data. Before we get started, I want to highlight the fact that the Office of Community Services has invested and continues to invest a substantial amount of resources and staff time in making sure that this initiative is successful, and that much of what you see today is a direct output of the vision of your fellow grantees on the Performance Management Implementation Workgroup. We'll start the webinar with an introduction from Holly Ravensloot, the Energy Policy and Evaluation Branch Chief at the Office of Community Services. Holly, go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to have, like David said, we're going to have an interactive workshop, and we have a couple of presenters. You have Aaron Stauer from acronym NCAT, who runs the clearinghouse, but NCAT, why can I not think of it? Something appropriate technology, right? Aaron, can you help me out?
The National Center for Appropriate Technology.
Oh, I got the last two. Okay, and then you're going to have David from Apprise, of course. Next slide, please. All right, so everybody's aware there are actually 3 federal websites that grantees can use to access information on LIHEAP. You have the Administration of Children and Families website. That's the LIHEAP website. That's the website my team actually updates. And then you have the LIHEAP Clearinghouse, which Aaron will discuss, and you have the LIHEAP Performance Management website. Next slide. Information on the LIHEAP ACF website, the federal website, includes the items on the left. It is your official communication from HHS to the grantees. That includes policy guidance, laws, regulations, report to Congress, contact information. Those bullets on the slide are actually on the landing page, and you can navigate through those. We also have training resources from different conferences we've done, different webinars we've done. They're posted there too. Next slide, please. Thank you. Then you have the LIHEAP Clearinghouse website, and this is information for the low-income energy assistance community. It's state-by-state program information. There's issue briefs, publications. We at HHS actually fund the Clearinghouse through a contract, so they do issue briefs and publications on topics that we review and approve. And honestly, if you guys have items like that that you would like us to do a little bit of research on or what have you, we can work with Aaron's team to create those materials, research those materials, those sort of things. Anyway, so the Clearinghouse is a great resource for that type of information. It's also good for grantee practices and for mentoring and grantee mentoring and finding a mentor and being a mentee and that sort of thing. Next slide. And then our third website is the one we're going to work through today a little bit. It is the Performance Management website. This website is designed to focus on LIHEAP performance management. It includes the data warehouse, grantee resources related to performance management, performance measures, and this really cool little tool called the LIHEAP Virtual Library. That's a great resource if you're a seasoned coordinator, or even if you're, especially if you're brand new. It's a good resource to kind of click through and say, hey, I know this, but I really don't know this. And you can navigate the library to get resources rather quickly from various locations. So those are overview of the 3 websites that we have. I also wanted to make another plug and let folks know that the LIHEAP Performance Management website now includes data from 2001 to 2016. We released a Dear Colleague letter that indicated that we're releasing preliminary data. Why it's considered preliminary is because the report to Congress has not been cleared through HHS and posted, but the data have been vetted and stuff like that. So it's pretty accurate data, but it is still deemed as preliminary, and all of that data is now available on the data warehouse. Anyway, that's all I have. I'm going to hand it over to Erin.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Erin Stoyer. I'm the project director at the LIHEAP Clearinghouse. Over the past few months, with lots of guidance and support from your peers in the Performance Management Implementation Work Group, we've been working to review and update resources that are currently available on the LIHEAP Virtual Library. The LIHEAP Virtual Library is intended to be a valuable resource for you. It was developed by your peers who serve on the work group, and I believe it made its debut at the 2015 NUAC conference in Baltimore. So this resource is a one-stop shop with a variety of resources available that will help you in the administration of your program. So it not only has training resources, but also it has lots of other examples from your fellow grantees. So over the past few months, we've recently completed the process of identifying and resolving issues with outdated or broken links. We've collected several new resources that have been released since 2015, and also reached out to grantees to provide us with some extra program examples, such as documents, training materials, and other program-related resources. So I'm putting this out there to you all. If you have suggestions, feedback, and especially additional resources that you could share with your colleagues, please contact me. My contact information is on your screen. Some examples of resources we're looking for are things like your sub-grantee contracts, vendor contracts, scoring criteria for procurement processes, monitoring tools, policy manuals, sub-grantee training curriculum, and so much more. So if you haven't been to the virtual library in a while, go check it out. If you notice that your state has examples on the virtual library, but you've updated them since, also please get in touch with me. So I thank you so much for working with us to make this resource valuable for you all. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar presented by David Carroll from Apprise.
Thanks. We'll now head back to the rest of the webinar. I do want to emphasize that NCAT is responsible for the LIHEAP Clearinghouse. In addition, NCAT is a member of the Apprise team on performance management, and John English from NCAT is the webmaster of the performance management website as well as the LIHEAP Clearinghouse website. Okay, so now Derek and I are going to walk you through some of the important new features of the performance management website. Before we start, we'll say one more time that you'll get more out of this webinar if you're logged into the performance management website. You can see the instructions on the screen for how you get access to that. And here's a helpful tip that shows you how to organize your screen so you'll be able to go back and forth between the webinar slides and your own screen where you're going to be accessing the performance management website. The purpose of this webinar is to give you information about the new performance management tools on the website. Some of you got an introduction to some of those tools during the national training. However, today we're going to try to be a little bit more systematic in our review of the website so that you have time to get a complete understanding of what is available. One important note for you. We've been given a kiosk at the NUAC conference in Phoenix that's going to take place in 2 weeks. At that kiosk, we'll be demonstrating the feature of the website to both grantees and to other members of the public. So after that conference, you might start hearing from sub-grantees or utilities or other interested parties about your state data. And if you get those questions, we wanted you to know where they might be coming from. So here are the basics. There are two website views. The first is the information that is available to the public, And the second is the information that is available to grantees who log into the website with their username and password. One of the things that you're going to see, you're going to see today is at the end of the webinar, we're going to get into the performance measures tab, and that repeats much of the information that's in other parts of the website. But the reason it's in two different places is because certain things are accessible to the public and certain things are not. So first, we're going to show you the public view. And you can see that here that the public has direct access to the reports to Congress, data warehouse, grantee resources, important links, what's new, and help. And you can see right there that the LIHEAP virtual library is directly accessible to members of the public. Now go to the grantee view, Derek. And so you can see with the grant here you can see the grantee view. The only real difference is that the grantee view has additional tabs, including, most importantly, the performance measures tab at the ends of the list. And we'll get into that further into the webinar. Go back to slide 15, Derek. Okay. Please note that that one longer-term objective is to make all of the information available to the public. Right now, we've been working carefully with OCS and with the work group to slowly develop materials and roll them out first to grantees and then to the public. And we always want to make sure that we understand whether or not the information is being interpreted correctly before we make it available to the public. But the long-term goal is to make all of this available to the public. Next slide. The content we will review on the public view of the website are the reports to Congress, the data warehouse tab, and the grantee resources tab. Next slide. So let's start with the report to Congress tab. This tab has three sets of information: the grantee profile, the latest approved report to Congress, and previous reports to Congress. So Derek, go to the public view, please. So and go to the reports to Congress. So what you'll see, first thing that you should note, so what you'll see is that the latest cleared report to Congress is the 2014 report to Congress. And so on this page for the public, there is the report to Congress, which is a PDF document. And then there's also a grantee profile that summarizes the information about each state that's reported on in the report to Congress. And for this view, we wanted to restrict the available profile to be consistent with the report that was being published. Please note that the report to Congress can be accessed both here and on the ACF website. Be assured that whether you find it here or on the ACF website, you're getting the same document. Derek, now click on the report to Congress. I'm going to encourage you to look at the report. It really has a wealth of information about the program. For example, you can see that Derek has opened the report and is going to the table of contents. It shows us that on page 11, there's information on about funding. And when you if he scrolls down a little bit, you can find that there is a table that shows the direct funding to tribes. At the recent national training, there was a lot of discussion about state tribal agreements, about how much tribes were receiving. And I just thought it would be useful for you to know that all the information of exactly what the funding was for 2014 and hopefully soon 2015 and 2016 is right here in the report to Congress. And if you don't have that, I know that what people were saying is that there's not a lot of information about state tribal agreements out there, and many people don't know even how much the tribes are getting. Well, if you're in Arizona and you don't know how much the different tribes are getting, you could go to this report and get that information. This is just to try to alert you to what's available. Derek, go on back to slide 18, please. So the next, next we're going to turn our attention to the Data Warehouse tab. Note that this is still part of the public view of the website. In this tab, we're going to review the grantee profiles, the guided search for a single state report, and the Data Warehouse tutorial. So go to the public view, Derek. So now Derek is switching over the public view of the Data Warehouse, and he's going to go to the grantee profiles. You see the first bar for the grantee profiles. When Derek clicks on that, you can see that the grantee profiles are not just restricted to 2014, but now as a result of the recent decision made by HHS, you can see the 2015 and 2016 grantee profiles. So even though the FY16 report is not yet published, members of the public can get summary information about your program. And you can use this profile document to give to others about your program. So we're going to be, since we're here in New Jersey, we're going to use New Jersey. Derek, why don't you give them open up the New Jersey profile, and we can show you the basic kinds of information that's available. So in the center of the profile, you can see this is how the different types of assistance that New Jersey furnishes with its funds. On the left-hand side, it gives you the basic statistics, the total funding available, total households served, income eligibility requirements for a 4-person household. It even gives you a little bit of historical information on the amount of funding from 2012 through 2016. And then finally, it gives you some information on the share of households in New Jersey, share of New Jersey's recipients who are vulnerable households. So that's a pretty good set of information. If somebody's asking you about your program, that's a very useful tool. You can get access to it and send it off to them, but they also can get access to it. Okay, now Derek is going to go to the guided search and remind you of the process by which you're able to access your data. First, he's going to show you a chart using the data that we've had accessible for several years. And then we're going to show you how the new performance measures data has been posted and can be accessed. So you can see that he takes the following steps. He clicks on the guided search button. He clicks on the Access Guided Search at the bottom of the page. He clicks on the Access Single State Reports. In this case, we're going to ask the question of how funds have been used. So he's going to click on the tab that is how funds are used. We're going to ask him to click on the number of LIHEAP recipient households by type of assistance. He's going to be asked to select which state, and he's going to do New Jersey again. And he's going to go next. Now, the other thing is, let's take a look at the last 5 years. That's a nice period of time to look at. So he's going to move the slider bar to the left, and he's going to click on View Report. On the screen, you can see the count of households for each type of assistance for New Jersey for the last 5 years. I know that each of you have these data for your state available in reports, but even the best databases are not likely to have these data accessible at your fingertips. There's also a kind of a special feature that we want to demonstrate is how you can modify this chart on the fly. Perhaps you wanted to look at how participation in your crisis program has changed over the last few years. You can restrict to the view of the crisis by clicking on the legend of each of the other types of assistance. Each time you click on a certain type of assistance, that is blanked out, and you can look at. So this allows you to focus more clearly. Now, this is a really interesting chart for New Jersey in that it's demonstrating that in 2014 they had over 40,000 crisis assistance households, whereas in many of the other years it was 30,000 or 20,000. So the question that they might ask themselves is what happened in that year and how can they prevent that kind of change in crisis. There are a couple of other nice features to this report. You can download this graphic by clicking on the 3 bars in the upper right-hand part of your screen. So you can just download a PNG image, and it jumps, and so this you can save onto your desktop if you want. You also can see the data that's in the report. It's in a table below, so you can see each of the types of assistance by each of the years, and you can even export these into a CSV Excel file. It's not a very pretty file. It's just the basics, but you all can use that and edit it to get the information that you need. Okay, so go back to slide number 19, Derek. So we're ready for the first interactive exercise in the session. See the instructions on the screen, and we're going to give you a couple of minutes to try to get that same information for your own state. We tested this yesterday, and people were able to get this. We're able to get through this exercise in a couple of minutes. And again, we just want you to get the feeling for how to make sure that you understand how to do this, so that when you're ready to look at these data yourself, they're easy enough for you to get. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes, and you can take the time to, you should have the instructions on the left-hand part of the screen, and then you should have the performance management website on the right-hand time. And once we're complete with that, we'll take a poll and find out whether people were able to actually access the information for their own state. I feel like we should be having the Jeopardy song. While you're doing this exercise, what you should know is that the next exercise we're going to do is to access some of the new performance management data. Okay, so we gave you about 2 minutes to do that. And we're going to, so we're hoping you're able to complete the exercise and view the report for your state. Derek will now launch a quick poll, and we'll ask you to take 10 seconds to complete the poll. The poll will show up on your screen, and you can choose your response. After 10 seconds, Derek will close the poll, and you'll be able to see whether people could get this done. And the point of this is to find out if there's something that wasn't clear about how you get access to this. We really want to know it. We want to know what's not clear. So how do we find the results, Derek?
So it's on I have it, and 66% voted, and 92% were able to complete the exercise. Great.
Okay, so you were able to complete the exercise. And again, we're just trying to get you comfortable with the idea of using this. Let's go to slide number 20, Derek. Okay. One important thing to know is that the data warehouse view is slightly different for a grantee who is logged into the system. First, at the top of the screen, you can see that there is a help desk widget. OCS has funded a prize to furnish a help desk for grantees. If you want assistance in understanding how to use the data warehouse, you can click on that link and either call the number or fill out the form to get help within 24 hours. You want to click on the help desk screen, that widget, Derek? So this tells you who to call, and there's a phone number right down there, and that it also you can fill out the form below. Second, so go back to slide 20, Derek. The other thing is that the guided search auto-populates reports and graphs with the data from your state and your profile. Now, you can change the state from your state to another state if you want to see what another state is doing, but it will default to your state. Go to slide number 21, Derek. There are 3 new components to the data warehouse, and those are the performance measures. There's the energy burden data, the energy burden targeting indexes, and the prevention and restoration indicators. So go to the public view, Derek, and again, I'm going to the public view because I want to highlight that this information is accessible to the public at this time. So Derek is going to show you how to access one of the important tables. Remember, again, he's going to go click on the guided search button, click on Access Guided Search, access the single state reports, click on Energy Burden, and you can see that basically the energy burden is all the information you filled in at the top of the performance measure data form module 2, the income, the energy bill, the LIHEAP benefits. That's all in this section. He's going to click on the average annual total energy bill. He's going to select New Jersey again. And you can see that this readily, now we're just going to leave the slider bar at 2016 since that's the only year for which data are currently available. And then he's going to click on View Report. And so this gives you ready access to the information on New Jersey on the average annual expenditures for all households and for high burden households. Derek, go ahead and click on the high burden households so that we can just focus on the average. You can see that this is a pretty useful display of the data. It tells you right away that electric main heat households have lower expenditures than the rest of the households. Natural gas households are at the average. And delivered fuels, including fuel oil, propane, and other main heats, are substantially above the average. And again, you can get access to these data, and remember that also the public can get access to the data. And so you might find after the NUAC web meeting, when some other individuals have had an opportunity to see and understand what the data warehouse can tell them, you might start getting some questions about this. Please note that your work group members told us it's really important that we emphasize that for you so that we can, so that you'll be alert to that and won't be caught by surprise. Okay, so go to slide number 22. So this is our second interactive exercise. So use the data warehouse guided search to get some information for yourself on your state and for your own state. Please note that if you were not able to do the performance data, you could click on another state. You don't have to use the data for your own state. So we'll take 2 minutes to do this activity as well. Okay, by now we are hoping you were able to complete the exercise and view the report for your state. Derek will now launch a quick poll, and we'll ask that you take 10 seconds to complete the poll. This will show, it will show up on your screen, and you can choose a response after 10 seconds. Derek will close the poll, and you'll be able to see the presentation again.
Okay.
So Derek, what were the results?
Yeah, so 80% of our audience voted and 94% were able to complete the exercise.
Great. The reason that we wanted to do this is we know that at the national training, many of you had the opportunity to work with the data warehouse, but as you remember, there were 3 people to a computer and 1 person was running the computer and the others were watching along. So we just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to get an experience with this. Now we'll go to questions on this section of the presentation. Derek?
Okay, so if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can ask a question through the phone. Just make sure if you do it that way that you've entered your audio pin so that you can talk. Otherwise, you can enter your question in the question box and I'll read it out loud. So David, we have one question. It reads, how can you do comparisons between your state and other states?
Derek, can you go to the public view again?
Sure.
So if you go to the data warehouse and you go to guided search, what you can see is that there's access to guided search. You can see that there's single state reports and state comparison reports. So access that, please, Derek. And what you can see is that so you can do state comparison reports, and what it defaults to is comparing your state to the other states in your region, in your federal region. But at this, as we have not yet put the performance data in, so you cannot get a comparison. You can't not get an automated comparison of your state to some other state in terms of the energy burden and the performance data. But remember, so Derek, go back to the guided search. Remember that you can, when you're accessing the single state reports, you could enter. It auto-populates with your own state, but you could pick a different state and take a look at what they're doing as well. Derek, are there any other questions?
Yes, we actually do. So Rick Campbell from Florida asked, are we going to send these slides out? The answer is yes. We're also recording this webinar and all of the materials will be posted on the performance management website by the end of the month. And if you want the slides sooner than that, you can contact one of the team members at Apprise and we'll happily give you the slides. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any other questions.
Okay, let's go to, Derek, go to the public view again. And so then the other thing, so go back up to the data warehouse. So the other thing you should note is down at the bottom, the final tab is resources and tutorial. And last year we did prepare a data warehouse tutorial that shows you how you won't use all the different features. This year what we thought we'd highlight is the fact that the performance data are now in the data warehouse, but you can go to this data warehouse tutorial if you want to see both how to use the guided search, including the single state, the state comparison, and the national data, as well as the advanced data and analytics where you can design your own reports. Hey, Derek, go back to slide 25. Okay. The final tab on the public view that we want to highlight is the Grantee Resources tab. The Grantee Resources, first I want to highlight that this tab is being updated. There have been some changes in HHS communication guidelines, and the work group, which is your fellow grantees, is constantly developing new tools with the help of the Apprise team. So this particular part of the data of the website is in transition. We will furnish new training on the Grantee Resources in October once the Grantee Resources tab has been completely updated. And that webinar is likely to include both grantees and members of the public. And a lot of this information has been consolidated in the Performance Measures tab. There are two pieces of information that we want to highlight that are here. The first is the 2018 National Training Materials and answer keys have been posted. So many of you who are at the national training said, I really want to see the answer key along with the calculations and formulas for how you got those answers. That has all been posted, and you can get access to it through the Performance Management website. And then there are also some new communication materials that have been posted. So Derek, go to the public view. So Derek is showing you how you go to the Grantee Resources to get access to the training. So under the Grantee Resources, there's information for grantees. He clicks on that. And then there's training and presentations, and he clicks on training. And you can see that right there, there's the national training for 2018. And what we would encourage you to do is to follow those same guidelines and to perhaps bookmark that information, because you can see that here there are the answer key and the understanding performance measures, calculations, and answers. So Derek's going to show, I don't know whether everybody knows how to bookmark or not, but Derek is in Google Chrome, and this is how he is bookmarking this page. And so he's creating that little bookmark. And so then he'll, so go back to home, Derek. Yeah, you've gone incognito. That's interesting. And so you can see how once he's bookmarked that, he can easily find it. The other thing that I'd like to highlight is the, so go back to the Grantee Resources. Under tools for grantees, the work group has developed some new communications tools, and I think these are really important. People have been asking the question of how is it that can you help me to understand how it is I communicate about this with my sub-grantees, energy vendors, and legislators? And the Talking Points group in the Performance Management website developed a letter template with talking points where you can fill in it basically allows you to, gives you a template and you can fill in the information for your own state. So click on the talking points for vendors, Derek. And so what they've done is they've developed and it gives you some language on how you might talk about these different performance measures and what findings you had for 2016. I think this is an extraordinarily valuable tool. And what we're going to do, and if anybody, so hopefully you can use the presentation to figure out how to get back here. But you also, if after we leave this webinar you can't get there, just send an email to any member of our staff and they can tell you how to get here. But this is a great activity that the Performance Measures Implementation Work Group undertook. Okay. So let's go. So we have information for how to access and how to bookmark the national training materials. So we'll give you about a minute to do that. What you need to do is so you go to the Performance Management website, which you click on the Grantee Resources tab. You click on the box that says Information for Grantees. You click on Training, and you click on National Training. And then if you bookmark that site, you'll always be able to get back to that. go to slide 27. So this is the instructions for accessing the new communications materials. You open, again, you go to the browser, you go to the Grantee Resources tab, you click on Tools for Grantees, and you click on the rightmost box that says Communication Tools, and you should be able to bookmark that as well. And we think those are two new resources that we think are going to be extremely valuable to people as they're trying to understand, use, and learn about the performance measures. Okay, so we're now going to go to questions again.
Okay, so again, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you, and you can talk through your phone, or you can enter a question through the question box. And David, I see one question. It says, am I required to use the entire text of the communications template?
No, the PMIWG erred on the side of putting all of the information that they thought might be useful into those documents. But the templates are just that. They're designed to let you pick and choose the information that you want to communicate. They just, they sat down and brainstormed and thought about everything that one might possibly want to ask, and gave you a way to express it. Derek, are there any more questions?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay. Now we're going to move on. Now we're going to go on to discuss the Performance Measures tab. Please note that the public does not currently have access to the tab, but they do have access to the performance data in the data warehouse. So you as grantees have access to this comprehensive set of information about performance management, but the public does not have access to those data at this time. So here's what's included. Actually, here's what's included in the Performance Measures tab. What we did is consolidated all of the resources about performance measures for grantees in one place. And it's really designed as a training and information tool for you as grantees. So we've got the grantee profiles here, which are located here as well as in the data warehouse. We have information on the LIHEAP performance measures. We have the Performance Management Integration Guide that was introduced and discussed at the national training. We have instructions for how to get access to the performance data on the data warehouse. And we even have this what-if analysis tool, which is something that the work group has been developing, but that's a little bit complicated to use. And so if you're interested, you can contact Dan Bausch for assistance with that. So Derek, let's go to the public view, go to the grantee view and show people again what this looks like. So he's going over to the performance measures, and again, you can only get access to this if you log into the system. If you just go to the website and you haven't logged in, you won't be able to get those data. And this is really a comprehensive resource for you on LIHEAP performance management. Starting point is grantee profiles. It helps you to see what information, it helps you to see what each state's program looks like. It gives you a nice picture of the different types of benefits that are available, the number of households served, the average benefits, and how well they serve vulnerable populations. It tells you gives you all the background information about LIHEAP performance measures. It gives you the Performance Management Integration Guide. It tells you how to access performance measures through the data warehouse, and it gives you some information about the what-if analysis tool. So go to slide 33, Derek. So we're going to highlight two things, the information on performance measures and the Performance Measures Integration Guide. The information on performance measures gives you explanation of the 4 LIHEAP performance measures. It tells you about the performance measures reporting requirements. It gives you access to the performance measures data collection information and guides, and it gives you access to the performance measures training resources. So Derek, go to the grantee view. So when you go to you learn more here about what are the LIHEAP performance measures. And so it gives you a general introduction to LIHEAP performance measures. It tells you exactly what are the 4 performance measures. It shows you what the performance measurement requirements are. So click on the performance measures form and instructions, for example, Derek. And so it gives you the instruction, it gives you direct access to the instructions. Go back up one. And then it also gives you direct access to the performance measures training. So now you see that a lot of this information was in the public part of the website, but what we've done is we've consolidated all of this information about the performance management website here in one place. And this would be if you have staff who you need to give the basics about performance measures, you could send them to this tab, to this specific location, and they could get a pretty good introduction to what performance measures are, what are the requirements, and what are some of the tools that we've developed to help you collect and report the data. Derek, go back to now the second thing, so this is the background information on what are performance measures and how you collect and report them. Then the second thing we want to draw your attention to is a performance management integration guide. This is, again, a brainchild of the performance measures implementation work group. They worked really hard to try to synthesize and consolidate and synthesize the information to help you understand what it is that the new performance measures are telling you. We went over this in the national training, but we know that not every grantee got to go to the training, and not every staff member in your agency got to go to the training. And so this contains all of the information in one place. Derek, go to the grantee view. So in the grantee view, what you can see is here's the performance measures integration guide. And there are three different things. There's the executive summary that gives you a one-page description of what we found for 2016 by looking at your data. Why don't you click on that and show us New Jersey again, Derek? And so here's the basic picture on what the performance measures told us. So back out and go to that slide again. There's also the state performance measures snapshot, which is detailed information, charts and graphs on the individual measures. Let's pick New Jersey again. So now you can see the interesting, Derek, go to the next page of the snapshot. And one of the things that you can, and go to, okay, so look at figure 2.2, highlight that. So one of the things that we saw was that in the data warehouse, you could get access to the average annual total residential energy bill for average households in high burden. So this is all of the data put in one document in one place. When you're in the data warehouse, you can look at the individual pieces of that, and you saw how you could manipulate those data, download those data, and get the information. So these are designed to be complementary, The snapshot gives you all the data in graphic format in one document. The data warehouse allows you to pick and choose what it is that you want to look at and how you want to look at it. Okay, so go back out again, Derek. And then finally, there is very detailed information called the LIHEAP Performance Measures Field by Field Guide. So click on that, Derek. This tells you exactly what is in each of the cells. You know, many of these things are not immediately obvious. We're all used to speaking about energy burden, but anytime you present information on this on performance measures outside our community, people say, well, what do you mean by energy burden? And so it's really important. It's really important that we have a way of describing that. And you don't have to make up the definitions yourself. They're available in this document. Okay, back out from that, Derek. Okay, so what we highlighted with respect to the Performance Measures tab was the information on what performance measures are and the Performance Measures Integration Guide. It was a pretty quick overview of what's there, but what you can see is if you go and click on that Performance Measures tab after you've logged into the system, you can get an awful lot of information. I will again highlight that most of that information was developed by grantees for grantees. We supported them in it in actually developing the materials, but the idea for what was getting done really came from your fellow grantees. If you want additional information, here are the people you can contact for more details on performance measures, and you can get answers to any of your questions. And then we'll go to a final set of questions.
Okay, it looks like we have one question. We have a question from Tammy Frazee, and she asked, we provide data on cooling. Where would we, in warm weather states, find it?
Say that again, ask that question again.
Sure, so they provide data on cooling, and where would warm weather states find that data?
Okay, so let's try to do this, and so Derek, go to the public view. So the first thing is, let's go to the data warehouse. Let's go to grantee profiles. And Tammy's from Arizona, am I correct? And so pick out Arizona. And so, you know, what this is, so if somebody were interested in how, in the basics for Arizona and how they allocate their funds, they can get the information that way. And then they can also go into the data warehouse and get a single state report and look at Arizona's different information. Tammy, is there something more that you wanted to know about how somebody would get access to information?
So she asked, do we have the data that compares us to other states?
Sure. So do you want to do the comparison? So Derek, go back to the data warehouse, go to the guided search, go to the comparison, access the guided search, go to the state comparison reports, and then how funds are used. Click on the how funds are used. And then how LIHEAP, let's see, LIHEAP recipient households by type assistance by state. Click on that. And I think, so if you wanted to look at, I know, it doesn't automatically, since we're not Arizona, it doesn't automatically pick the other states in her region. Why don't you pick New Mexico, California, and Texas. And just look at 2016. Don't look at multiple years. And what we really would want to look at is the percent table, but we don't have that here. We would have to get that in another place. And then click off the heating, winter crisis, summer crisis, weatherization. And so what we can see is that they do serve a lot of households in terms of cooling, but you know, Texas is a much bigger state, so of course they serve more. But New Mexico also is very similar to Arizona in terms of the way that they characterize their program. And California also has a year-round program. Some of these statistics are difficult to look at, but anyway. So if you want to look at the simple answer is, if you want to look at your state in comparison to others, you go into the state comparison report. But you're going to have to think carefully about what information you want and how to compare it. Go down, Derek, to the table below. But one thing you might want to do is you would export that to a CSV or Excel file, and then if you wanted to compute percentages, like what share of your funding goes to different types of programs, you could look at that from that perspective. I'm not sure we answered her question 100%, but at least we showed you some other capabilities.
She said this is great and thanks. So I think it did. So
okay. Any other questions?
We have a comment from Christine, and she just wanted to thank everyone for the information. And she said it had to take a great deal of time. Please know we are beyond appreciative.
Great. One other thing that I did want to say is that the 2017 data are being reviewed. As you know, we were hoping, you know, if the OMB clearance had been granted in January, the data would already be in the system. But grantees have just finished sending in their reports. We're in the process of reviewing them, and we're hoping to get all the data post-2017 data posted before the end of the fiscal year. Any other questions, Derek?
No, I don't see any other questions.
Okay, so the last word is this webinar will be posted before the end of the month. So if you missed anything, you'll be able to get access to it. And if you want to get a copy of the slides before that, please just email Derek or anyone else on the staff for that information. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you down the road.